Welcome to the WoodsTalk podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to the WoodsTalk podcast with me, freelance lesbian Rue Woods, and my special guest, Mr. Jordan of House Robinson. Namaste, bye. How's it going?
Nice to be back. I'm buzzing for it. Does freelance lesbianism pay well?
It depends. Your muff licking standards really sort of dictate. You lick puss on commission, you know what I mean? And it's, you know, if their legs are shaking after you lick the muff, you know what I mean? And they're walking about like...
You get paid. Yeah, no, I get you. I
yeah,
get
you know you've licked a good you've licked a good muff when they walk like Michael Flatley for the good guts of 10 days after. And you're like...
10 days? That seems like a lot of, like, I don't know, like after pastoral care, where you're still in contact with the people that you service like 10 days after.
I know, it's like, it's a bad sign when you know that if someone licks your muff well, that you're going to need to like take time off work, because you're like, here, I can no longer...
Exactly.
I cannot hand out the numbers in the TK Maxx changing room when I'm like this, fucking flailing about like a her.
Yeah, this is like fucking Michael J. Fox on a bad day.
Oh, for sure. Or on a good day, you don't know. I mean, if he...
on any day, the man's riddled with it. Like.
I think on a good day, his legs are kind of like, no, on a good day, you remember those old school washing lines that would be like an upside down tripod, and just like, I guess his vibe.
You see, the funny thing with Michael J. Fox is, I don't know if it's everybody who has Parkinson's has the same kind of way that he goes about things, but he can still play ice hockey to like a very high degree.
Seriously?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's just he's obviously Canadian, so brought up playing hockey his whole life. But yeah, for some reason the tremors and stuff like that don't affect him when he's playing ice hockey.
That's pretty cool, because obviously if you have an affinity for that sport, you mean like that's an element of his life where it's not affected. And I have to say, you know, you're doing a podcast with Jordan Robinson when you've already got into the subject of Parkinson's and how it affects your daily life, and we're not...
It's the start of every gig, man. I just want to make it clear that I'm not nervous.
You just want to bring awareness.
Exactly.
One thing I always thought about you, now for anybody that hasn't seen you do stand-up who listens to this, you talk about having, is it ET, essential tremor?
Yeah, essential tremor, yeah.
Which means you sort of involuntarily shake. So your joke is, if you see you shaking, you know, it's because you're genetically inferior to everyone in the room. That's the cusp of the joke. I always thought, and I've always meant to say this to you, I don't know if I ever did, but I always wonder, is there room for a bit in your stand-up where if someone sees you from a distance and you're kind of shaking a bit, they start to feel cold, and they're like, "Geez, is a Kyle in here?" Do you know what I mean? And you planted it in their heads that it's somewhat Baltic, so they just see you and go, "Geez, it must be cold in here because he's shivering like fuck." Do you know what I mean?
I know. I should be like, maybe I'll try and work up like a sponsorship deal with some boiler companies just to, you know, implant it in people's brains that, you know, global warming isn't an issue and it's just getting colder and colder.
Yeah, Jordan Robinson for RHI. Here we go.
I can't be. I can't afford to get into another scandal like that. It's.
I know, man. Fuck's sake.
I'd have to go. I don't know.
So what have you been up to since we last spoke? I was trying to figure out. It's been a wee while since you've done WoodsTalk, hasn't it?
Man, it has been a good long while. I've moved house since,
awesome.
So I'm now in my very own apartment where I can hang things on the wall that I like, and I can say fuck all I want. It's class.
That's why you do it.
Exactly. That's why you move out of your mom's house. So the cardiac rehab's been going pretty good. So I obviously moved back in with my mom after having the surgery because I needed someone to like do everything for me essentially. And yeah, now that I'm better, I can just do all my own stuff.
Yeah.
Which is why I moved out. And apart from that, yeah, just with lockdown, everything's essentially still the same.
Yeah. That's cool.
But, I've also started doing my own podcast.
That's right, yeah, the Injury Time.
With Darren Matthews, yeah, the Injury Time podcast. And yeah, it's the only thing keeping me sane is just researching weird sports stories.
Yeah, awesome,
and stuff like that. So that's why I haven't gone like fully postal and killed someone yet.
Yeah, I think it's a real sign of how everybody's fed up generally being in lockdown, when you can almost consider moving house as like a positive spin, you know, because usually that's the most painful thing in the world. You know, because people, like, I guarantee at any stage of your life, whether you can afford to pay people to move your stuff for you, or if you have your own car to move shit, moving's always a pain in the hole, even if it's just you, particularly. And I don't know if you find this, and you seem like a dude that maybe would do this as well, that you'd be sort of surprised at how much shite you've accumulated over the years. You seem like a dude that keeps shit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, 100%. It's like when I was packing up all my stuff to move out, it felt like an episode of Hoarders. Like I was keeping like old KFC sporks and stuff like that in case they came in useful. But yeah, no, the amount of stuff that, and like you couldn't even donate, because I have a bunch of like old T-shirts and stuff like that I was going to like donate to like charity stores, or like anybody who wants a spare parachute or anything like that. But like all the charity shops, number one, they're closed, and even when they were open briefly when the lockdown was eased, they weren't taking any fabrics, because obviously the risk of contamination is too high and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, if anybody wants a sale for a 40-foot yacht, let me know.
I do wonder, in terms of like visiting charity shops, there has to be a limit to how much. You can't just like use it as a dumping ground for all the stuff that you just don't want. There has to be a point where they go, that's too much. We don't need another pair of He-Man long johns. We don't need it. There's no need. Do you know what I mean? There must be a limit though.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think people essentially treat it like, like the recycling centre. Because I'm living in Belfast now, and it's beside, it's like 2 minutes away from the Ormo Park recycling thing, which now has essentially turned into my Thompson's, because it's the only place I talk to other human beings. And yeah, no, like moving in and stuff like that, there was a couple of problems with the apartment. I spoke about this on Dave's Patreon podcast.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure someone was murdered on the mattress they left with me.
Why do you say that?
I don't know if you've seen it, but it looked like a small child or animal had been decomposing on the mattress. Like it is properly disgusting. Like
Fuck.
So I remember like taking it to the dump, and then trying to get a priest in to exorcise the house, like just in case there's any demons picking it up.
I have to say, like, you know, prior to you sort of moving into that flat, did you see many places in Belfast? Because speaking as someone that's moved quite a bit and is moving quite soon, possibly, the places to live in Belfast, it's really few and far between for places where you're like, I'd live here. There's places you go, I could live here for a year for the sake of saving money. But in terms of like a place to rent that you could rent for more than 2 years, they don't really exist. You know what I mean? You're like, I'm going to have to buy, for fuck's sake.
It all seems... Yeah, it seems like it's all like kind of 12-month short-term leases and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think I've really landed on my feet here because location-wise, it's just in Stranmillis. So it's like perfect for, there's a Belfast bike like kind of depot thing here. So you can jump in that, go into town, no bother. Right on like just beside the towpath as well. So like, you know, if you were that way inclined, you could go to Lisburn. And then, yeah, it's just near Cutter's Wharf. There's your pub, there's a shop, a wine mark, a corner shop, hairdresser's, pharmacy, all within walking distance. Like, so I think I've really I've hit the jackpot, and plus it's not too expensive for like a 1-bedroom apartment. So
yeah, because that's what it boils down to, the price and where you are. Now, I've been lucky that even as a student, I managed to avoid Holy Lands. You know what I mean? So I did a year in I did 2 years in Stranmillis. I did Sandymount Street and then I did Landseer Street, which is down at the bottom near the whatever that bar is called now, the Diabetic Mime or whatever the fuck it's called. The Jagged Nettle, pardon me. Shout out to them. But location is everything, because I find, you know, even for looking at houses for the crack to buy, you just see the gallery and you can tell that it's like, you just see through the window of the kitchen that there's like just a junkie in the bin or something, you know what I mean? You're like, it's a nice house, but could have put up with the junkie in the bin,
exactly.
throwing stuff back at you, going, "You can't fucking recycle it." And I'm like, "Oh Jesus, sorry." Do you know what I mean?
Look, they're just caring about the environment. That's all they're doing.
It's environmentally conscious. But to be fair, they don't really do it. They don't do anything to the environment. They don't drive cars. They don't put. Exactly. They don't really pollute. They don't stay in a house that uses electric and like gas and stuff like that. So they're more environmentally conscious than the people who are going out saying like save the environment.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's so stupid.
Well, how much? I wonder what the carbon footprint of someone who goes through like 6 lighters in a week.
That's true.
Like all the butane they're putting into the atmosphere, man, it can't be good.
Just like a wee Bunsen burner over like that KFC spork, and be like, yes, lad.
He's carrying around like a scuba tank kind of thing on his back just for the Bunsen burner. That sounds like a really kind of, I don't know, kind of like not exactly in the rogues gallery of Batman, but like one of the kind of like almost B-sided villains in the whole Batman kind of universe.
Yeah, funny enough, I was thinking of like Firefly and Batman, or if the Rocketeer ever showed up in Trainspotting. Do you know what I mean? I tell you what, I think it was McKegney I spoke to about this. It's a bit that I'm probably going to bring into the new show. But I do, having watched Trainspotting and the sequel recently enough, and I have to say, I don't know if you've seen the sequel, but it's one of the few examples of a sequel to a film that came out years and years before that's actually good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that and
100%.
Blade Runner 2049 were the same year, so it's weird that you got 2 in the 1 year, because usually if you leave it too long, nobody gives a fuck. Sin City 2, Zoolander 2. Dumb and Dumber 2. Nobody gives a shit.
All that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But what was my original point? I was thinking about the bit in Trainspotting 2 where Spud he misses like an appointment for, it's like the job or the dole or his kid, to see his kid, because he wasn't aware of daylight savings, and he didn't realize that was a thing because he's been a junkie, and their one priority is getting the drugs. So I was always thinking, do the junkies just have the shittest phone imaginable to text the right people to get drugs, but have no awareness of anything? Because you think in the last couple of years, including COVID, there's been some changes to the way things run. So I wonder if they had a day or even half a day where they were sober, would they look around and see the way people behave and the stuff that we do now and be like, is this the future? Like contactless, people can start their cars now from an app on their phone, for fuck's sake. Air fryers. Even like that fucking COVID lockdown, they went to bed one night. They went to their sleeping bag and outside a pretzel place one night, woke up and there was nobody. No, we were in lockdown. There was nobody about. So they're going, has the world ended and it's up to us now? Because I'm not keen. They must have freaked out, man.
Yeah, instead of like calling, like thinking a zombie apocalypse has happened or anything like that, the first people they call, it's not their friends or family or anything like that. It's just contacting their dealer.
Exactly. It must have been weird. It must be weird for them if they looked at the stuff we can do now, even like in terms of the internet and all. They must go like, it must be mad for them, like.
Crazy. Although I this is probably something only I did. When I was like a teenager, I was like looking like you go into like town and stuff like that at the weekends with your friends and stuff like that. I kind of scouted out if my life, completely, hit the skids and I was ending up homeless, where I would go. And the Clayton Hotel just on Dublin Road?
Yeah.
There's like a wee kind of like fire exit enclave kind of thing, but there's a fan that like shoots out hot air. I think it's like from their air conditioner or whatever it is. And I was like, okay, that's perfect. You're shielded from the rain. You've got a source of heat. You can watch the BBC building for entertainment, and you don't have to pay for a TV license.
Yeah.
I really got it sorted out. So if I ever become homeless and find someone in my spot, I know they've listened to this podcast.
Yeah, I swear to fuck, it's good that you've got a contingency plan for just in case I end up homeless, because that's probably a good spot. As you say, like even you sort of look a wee bit to like your right, or your left even. You've got Witherspoons, so on a Saturday night, that's like a free safari. Do you know what I mean? That's like poverty safari, that, man. You've got some good, you're near the BBC, so you might see Stephen Nolan, no horse, 2 bags of prawn cocktail fucking share bags into his bake before he goes to work in the morning. You got the Limelight near, so you'd probably hear the Limelight tunes from where you are, so you would need to pay in, so you would hear Papa Roach, Stained, Korn, coal chamber, loco, all that shit. Fucking, what do you call that one? What's that band? Fucking. There's one big sort of alternative heavy tune. It's like a one-hit wonder. They always play in Limelight. What the fuck? It'll come back to me. What the fuck is it?
Oh.
I can't. Drowning pool, zombie or bodies.
Yeah. Let the bodies hit the floor.
Oh yeah, you know what I mean. So that would be. That's a good spot to be homeless. If you were going to be homeless, do you know what I mean? Like that could be. You could rent that out to other homeless people.
Yeah, but you see, I just like the kind of like privacy of a public street. I don't really want anybody encroaching on my space.
Yeah.
But no. Technically, if you're homeless, like anywhere is like an ensuite essentially, because just getting pissed wherever you want.
Oh, for sure. It's not all bad. That's I think that's basically what we're saying is
exactly silver linings.
Yeah, you have to like positive mindset gets you far in life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I did want to ask you about you brought up Batman there. Did you see the Snyder Cut?
I have not seen the Snyder Cut yet. I haven't. I saw the trailer for Suicide Squad, which looks decent enough. With the Snyder Cut, I think I messed up in the fact that I listened to people's reviews of it. And that kind of like tinted my idea of what it actually, whether it be worth the watch and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's only available on Sky Movies, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I got like a free trial with Now TV, Sky, and then you get the Sky Cinema Pass, so it's really handy enough to get. But I see what you mean. I've had that a few times where you can't avoid reviews and spoilers, and so if you see a lot of social media posts of people shitting on it, it sort of predisposes you to maybe not liking it as much. Yeah. And it's horrible because I don't consider myself someone that listens to reviews and stuff, but it's hard to avoid that when you see a lot of negativity for any film on social media. It's weird.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're looking at it going like, you really want to go into it impartially, because there's loads of movies that people like slate that I think are absolutely class. And there's a movie, A Walk Among the Tombstones. It was like 2014 it came out, and it has Liam Neeson in it, and it's basically like Taken but not Taken, if you know what I mean. And I swear to God, it is one of my favorite films of all time, but everybody gives me shit about it. Have you ever seen it?
I haven't actually, but I would watch it.
Invest in your future and watch that movie.
Yeah. So you describe it. You describe it as Taken, but it's not Taken. So the daughter's fine. She's just there.
Yeah. So the daughter's fine, but it's like an old flame who is kidnapped by a bent policeman, bent copper, in the line of duty terminology, not in playground speak. I stand by it. Yeah. And no matter what evidence you show me, I will not retract any statement I've made about that film.
No, I will definitely give that a shout, because saying as someone who likes movies, if you can give me some examples, apologies for putting you on the spot, films that you love that people hate, and then vice versa.
Okay, so I think one of the best movies ever made was Jaws #3.
Right.
Nobody agrees with me, not even the makers of Jaws 3.
Yeah.
But if you can find anything more lighthearted than this multinational conglomerate, SeaWorld, going like, oh yeah, we've got the first ever great white shark in captivity. And then they're exploiting it by selling tickets to shows and stuff like that to show off. And then the mother of the great white shark comes into the park and then starts killing everyone. I mean, like, that's... I don't know how it didn't chart higher on IMDb. That's the only issue I have with the whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Dennis Quaid. He's in a Red Sox cap the majority of the film. And there's plenty of nudity. So
what more do you want?
All the boxes are ticked.
Yeah.
All the boxes.
That sounds good, I have to say, because, the idea of the ma coming back and defending her child, I mean, Bambi would have been fucking lit to the tit if they had done that. Wouldn't that have been great, man?
Never thought of it like that, but it's basically the same movie twice.
Even like The Sixth Sense, You know, the ma's knows that her child's fucked. What about her just going in, beating the fuck out of them ghosts? Do you know what I mean? Just got her own proton pack and be like, here, leave my wee child alone. He's trying to wank in peace.
So I don't. It's funny you asked about like movies and stuff like that because next week we've got. I've started doing a new podcast with another comedian from Belfast, a girl called Heather Anderson, and it's called Pop Kernels. So it's like it's not exactly a movie review. It's just we talk about movies.
Mm-hmm.
It's not saying if they're any good or not, but so there's like a different theme each week, and so the first episode is the movies that we like. You know the way you say it's your favorite movie, but sometimes that changes, like what the number one position is.
Mm-hmm.
So as of recording it, my favorite movie was Jojo Rabbit by Taika Waititi.
Yeah.
That came out in 2019, and Heather's is Harold and Maude. Have you ever seen Harold and Maude?
I haven't seen it, but yeah.
Man, it's an experience.
Yeah.
So it's just we try and find like a kind of like some form of link between the two movies.
It's a good idea.
And from a movie from 1973 and 2019, it was quite difficult until we realized that Maud, the lead female protagonist of Harold and Maude, was a member of Auschwitz concentration. Well, wasn't like interned in Auschwitz. And then Jojo Rabbit's obviously about a kid called Jojo Spetzler who his imaginary friend is Hitler. So
yeah, that's a good.
I think we did it
link.
with the grace it deserved.
It's thin. It's a thin link, but you did it.
Hey, you know,
it's a link nonetheless. I always enjoy the term intern. I always enjoy like they're interning at like Nazi camps. I'm just like. With the hope of getting a full-time career out of it.
Yeah, this may be actually stepping on Dave Elliott's toes a bit, but a little bit of serial killer knowledge. Now, I can't exactly remember the guy's name, but he is famous because he was a French serial killer in around the end, so 1943, roughly just around the end when the war was wrapping up and stuff like that. And he was interned in a mental institution. But to be an intern and to be interned, the only difference in the French language is an accent over one of the E's. So he used to put that he was an intern at a mental institution instead of being interned in one.
Yeah.
So, you know, if anything, that proves that if you're ever going to write your CV, do it in French.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because I wonder, like, if you spelt rapper with just one P, you know what I mean? It would be a different vibe.
Yeah, exactly.
But see, that was that from your episode of Dave's thing?
No, it was. So there's a podcast called Last Podcast on the Left, and they did a episode about serial killers in World War II, because like obviously there's a lot of shit going on then. So not everybody's like main concern was trying to catch people who were murdering back home and stuff like that. So that's why I found it like really interesting. But there's just so much. I'm blanking on the guy's name, but you should check it out. Like just because the amount of shit he does, he ran for mayor. He disrupted other like political kind of rallies of people who were standing against him by like setting fire to things, like destroying electricity pylons. And it's just a good old family fun kind of story.
Because I'm wondering when I did Dave's one, I did the serial killing thing ages ago. And that's somewhat.
Can I guess which serial killer he gave you?
See, that's what I'm asking. The one you're talking about sounds wild familiar, but I don't know if it's one that he told me about that featured in a different episode, or was it mine? I actually can't remember.
What was yours, Ted Bundy?
No, I would have. No, I would have remembered Bundy. Was I the second or third episode? Fuck, I can't even remember how at all. If any listeners that listen to that, do comment below whatever one it was.
No, it's one of my favorite podcasts to do, just because it's you know the podcasts I like doing are like, you know, movies, sport, and true crime. It's just what I like. You know, talk about what you know. It's all I know. Like but do you think that's kind of weird the way? I know you're a happily married man, so you're not on Tinder. But the amount of people that put in their like Tinder bios and stuff like that about how much they like true crime documentaries and you know, serial killer documentaries and stuff like that. I like, because I have since I was a kid. Like I remember watching like Unsolved Mysteries and stuff like that on the Discovery Channel when I was like no age.
Yeah.
And then like growing up, and like if you said it to anyone, especially on like a first date or anything, that's like a massive red flag. But now it seems to be like the cultural norm now to
For sure.
watch stuff about Richard Ramirez and the Cecil Hotel and the whole Lisa Lam thing.
Yeah, because there's so much more content related to it now. Like even, there's obviously been like famous serial killers. Like there was a Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy was trending for a wee while there because I think did Zac Efron maybe do something where he played Bundy?
Was it Wickedly? Some movie that Apple produced, I think.
Yeah, because then there was that, and then Ted Bundy tapes, and then we've had stuff like Making a Murderer, then that one Evil Genius. So I think there's more of it, so it's more prevalent. And it's always, it's very popular. But again, again speaking as someone that hasn't fucking had what you would call a date in fucking 12 odd years, but it seems like a weird thing to bring up even now. But I suppose.
Yeah.
It kind of dominates. I think Making a Murder was really the cusp of, from now on, this is going to be a big thing. I mean,
yeah, it really started it. Like,
would I be surprised if there's a true crime documentary about the Primark fire? I would not. And I think, do you know what I mean? Fucking Jason Bateman's going to narrate it or something like that. They always seem to get a celebrity in to narrate it. And that's the thing with all true crime podcasts is just like, and even like documentaries, but it's always like the most heinous crimes. I want to just do a true crime series about this guy who frequently steals from Tesco. I just want to wee decade that steals a meal deal from Tesco every day and how he does it. Do you know what I mean? Why does it always have to be high level crime? Give me.
I know exactly. It's almost it's like the kind of there's no foreplay. It's always just the main event and that's it.
Yeah.
You need like if Making a Murderer instead if it was like the third season and then just making a shoplifter. And then making someone who doesn't pay their TV license, and then making a murderer. That's how you get people in.
Yeah, you have to ease them in. I want to see one.
Exactly.
The guy who chips your skybox. I want to see a true crime documentary. I want to see that guy. The guy who went about housing estates with a magnet for your electric meter. The magnet selling her that he was. I'd love to see that, man.
What do you think would be the worst crime to be convicted of? And then put to prison. Obviously, I'm not talking about in terms of like how heinous it is or whatever, but like if you had to talk to other prisoners and you go like, yeah, I'm in here because ABC, what would be the worst one for you?
I don't. Well, I'd always assumed from afar that anything to do with anything dodgy around children, sexual or otherwise, is sort of like the guy who the vocalist from Lost Prophets. He's
in Watkins.
Yeah, he has to be dead by now. I think he's dead. Even like anything dodgy that involves kids, even if it was just something like you were fucking ripping off kids by selling them fucking out of date ice cream or some shit. That's dodgy. But it depends. If you're in a prison here in Northern Ireland, I'd say. Would you rather have that where you're automatically hated, or go in having like doing such a shite crime that you got slagged every day for it? Like if you stole pick and mix from the Odeon in Victoria Square and got arrested for it, and you go into fucking wherever, McGabry, you'll get slagged every fucking day for the rest of your life. So even if they like you're going up the queue for your dinner in the morning in the evening, they'd be like, "There's no fucking Parma violets there or flumps, you fucking gimp." Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. Are we like sort of shite crime? You'd be slagged every day. I don't know. I'd rather just be shunned.
Yeah, exactly. I have this reoccurring nightmare where I get put into prison because I'm making like vape juice like in my house.
Vape juice?
Like I'm selling it. And it's getting like it's kind of like moonshine. It's making people blind. And
right.
Like this is being explained to me by like a Crooks type character, from Shawshank Redemption. He's like explaining it in the campaign, and then he gives me like a page to read, and like I can't read any of the writing because it's all like jumbled up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then he just starts making fun of me, and then I wake up and go about my day in a pandemic.
Right. So do you mean actual vape? You mean actual vape juice? You don't mean the oil? You mean you're juicing it?
No, yeah, it's just like
the squeezy thing.
Just like lithium battery juice. No, it's like I remember one time I was in it was a friend's leaving do when we were in I was working in the Points on Dublin Road, and we went to Thompson's, and I was out in the smoking area for the majority of the night, and this guy comes up to me and tries to sell me like the e-cigarette liquid to. And he was like, yeah, no, man, I've got big plans for this. At the minute, I'm doing it in my granny's house. But I'm just thinking, I didn't think, like, younger Jordan definitely didn't anticipate this. Like, growing up, being in a smoking area and going like, yeah, I will gladly smoke something that you made in your granny's bath. No bother.
It's mad that, like, you know, like, I don't mind people who vape, to be honest. It doesn't really bother me. But I don't like the people that are like, oh, it's far better than smoking, man. It's far better. And you're like, it's not though. Maybe it is by a smidge, but you know what I mean. It's not as if like you've replaced it with like lentils. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's still it's a reasonably unhealthy thing to do. It's a good
100%. Like
it's healthier.
And like I don't know all the deal with like carcinogens and stuff like that with cigarettes versus vaping. But it is, it's not good because when I was in hospital, like one of my lungs collapsed. And then they were explaining basically the function of the lung and how it works. And essentially in the lung, there are these like little tiny, almost like hair follicles that they're obviously not hair follicles, but what they essentially do is, you know, take the oxygen out of the blood and like pump it so your heart and your brain and all that kind of stuff gets enough oxygen. And basically when you smoke and stuff like that, they just essentially stop working to an extent where when like obviously when it gets too bad, it gets like serious when you've got diseases like popcorn lung and bronchitis and stuff like that. But yeah, when I'm thinking of vaping and stuff like that, it can't be good for your lungs in terms of that as well.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Yeah, when they say healthier, I'm going like, I mean, like it's you know, it's like prettiest girl in Dungannon kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's not really a prize, is it?
Yeah, it's like saying you have the biggest verruca. It doesn't really matter. But you know what, man? There's always been that vibe in every respect that people try and like, people are so like misguided. You know, like, I always remember in the shop, this infuriated me. There's like a similar sort of metaphor. You know, the people that would come up with like a salad, they get a salad with like southern fried chicken, cheese, taco sauce, and a Diet Coke, and they're like, I'm having the Diet Coke, so it's healthier. And you're like, it's not though. It's fun. I mean, and again, the salad's not healthy, but they're like, it's got the word salad in it, so technically,
exactly.
healthy AF. You know what I mean?
Exactly. There's green in this.
Yeah, there's green. Some
you not
green
see
shit.
the green healthiness. No, I think that's it's essentially people just going like, it's the kind of thing where they're what is it, trying to convince themselves. It's like, oh no, I'm in the clear because look at all this healthy stuff I'm doing.
Yeah,
like Diet Coke, that's not full fat Coke.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
I would like to say that I have been party to doing this, but like I haven't fucking eaten a salad since like 2004, so you know, that definitely, I don't fall under that camp whatsoever. Like
your Facebook memories.
Yeah.
Caesar salad. Do you remember that?
Not a salad, not a fan.
Do you remember that day, the salad day? That was a fucking good day. I like it. That was good fun. Do you remember that? So where do we get to? We segue there. So Jaws 3. To go
Jaws 3, yes.
Yeah, Jaws 3.
Back to the real topics.
Yeah. What else in terms of films you like that people dislike?
The movie Urban Legends, starring Jared Leto and Robert Englund, the guy who played Freddy Krueger in the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
I watched that recently enough. I didn't mind it, I have to say. I thought it was grand.
One of my favorite films of all time.
Yeah. I liked it, yeah.
A couple of others are... I can't remember who directed it, but it starred Paul Dano, Hugh Jackman, and Jake Gyllenhaal. It was Prisoners. It's
your man Denis Villeneuve. He also did Arrival and Blade Runner 2049, and he's doing the Dune remake as well. That guy's fucking talented. There's another one of his, I believe. That maybe there isn't, I don't know, but he's smashing it at the minute. But Prisoners, man, is fucking class.
I love Prisoners, but I've had so many friends going like, it's way too long to enjoy. And I'm like, it's not like it's The Irishman or Once Upon a Time in America, where it's like, 3.5, 4.5 hours long. It's
Yeah,
like 2.5 hours long, and it honestly goes by in like a instant. Like,
yeah.
I really don't, you don't feel it like. But I remember watching Irishman in the cinema
Oh,
when it
really?
came out, and I was just like, this is torturous. This is just
Yeah.
too long to enjoy anything.
You see, it's weird. I think any films of that length are better streaming at home. Not to slag, like I know cinemas are kind of dying on their hole, and I don't want to see that happen. But it's really such a double edged sword in that, particularly when the Snyder Cut came out, there was a lot of people complaining that it was 4 hours and it had to be shite because it was 4 hours. But some people weighed in with the argument that, well, when you're lying binge watching Stranger Things, that's more than
Yeah,
4 hours. Do you know what I mean?
exactly. Yeah.
So it really
Yeah.
is. It's a hard one to tell. But if you're going to make a long film, you have to be in the mood for a start, and you have to be invested,
100%.
which is difficult because these days I think it's even harder for a film director to keep your attention because the amount of times, and I'm guilty of this myself, that I just go, what the fuck was he in? And then IMDb and be like, oh, he did an episode of The Bill, and then do you know what I mean? Then you've missed like 10 minutes going because you've scrolled through his discography. It's usually someone shite. See, that's when you always go like, who's he? It's not like you go, oh, that's Brad Pitt. It's always someone
Yeah.
you're like, what the fuck was he in? And he's got like
Yeah,
this vast
exactly.
filmography, but it's like Drake and Josh, Casualty, The Bill, Midsummer Murders, fucking Blue Peter, Biker Grove. No, it's always the most like, and you have to scroll for like 2 hours to go, oh, 1991, he was in an episode of Goosebumps, sweet. And then you go back to the film and you're like, and then you're like, oh, 40
I
minutes
mean,
have passed.
it's different in terms of like, because you get some like really famous people. So like in terms like Chris Hemsworth was in was it Home and Away or something, I want to say. It's
Yeah,
like an Australian soap opera.
yeah,
And Tom Hardy being in like The Bill and stuff like that. When you see that, you're like, okay, he probably had this trajectory already going. Like, I
yeah.
don't think it was The Bill that made him. Like, you know what I mean?
Imagine it was. I mean, just if you hadn't been in The Bill, getting your Oscar going,
Yeah.
thanks to the producers of The Bill back in the day for giving me the chance to forge out a career where I got an Oscar for playing
Yeah, given the
Bambi's ma.
platform, yeah. Oh, hilarious.
I love that though, like the wee bits of trivia. Like for example, Ryan Gosling was in Goosebumps. Bryan Cranston was in Power Rangers, like the actual TV shows. A few
Yeah,
times, yeah, he was like a couple of different villains. No, because you're in a costume anyway. He did that a
yeah.
few times. And you see all these like BuzzFeed articles, like Brie Larson was in 13 going on 30. So there you go.
That's serious?
Oh, she was. She didn't have a speaking role. And even seen today, I was looking in the. I don't know if we talked about this the last time, but I'm a massive Mighty Ducks guy. I just am, right?
Oh, no. I didn't know that.
There's a obviously Disney Plus TV show now that's
Mhm.
out. So naturally on YouTube, there's like this watchmojo.com. Do you ever hear that? Fucking, there's a load of bollocks.
Yeah, yeah. I
But
know the amount of times I've spent like hours and hours and hours just watching like the top 10, I don't know, pot noodle fucking flavors or something like that. Something stupid like
yeah,
that.
so I was watching that earlier, and it was like 10 stars of the Mighty Ducks and where they are now. So it was pretty obvious.
Yeah.
You Keenan Thompson's on SNL, Emilio
Yeah.
Estevez's
Emilio
character and
Estevez.
stuff like that. But the guy who played Averman, who is like the ginger haired fellow with the glasses in Mighty Ducks, he was in all three. One of his early roles is he's in Home Alone 2. In the background, do you know when it cuts to, is it Home Alone 2 or Home Alone 1? They go to, is it where do they go?
Yeah, it's Paris
Paris?
number one, and they leave Kevin at home. And
Yeah.
is the ginger kid the one that drinks Pepsi and is sleeping in the top bunk?
No, it's actually, because that's his cousin, Kieran
Oh,
Culkin.
okay.
This is, when it cuts to the rest of the McAllisters in Paris, and there's like a tracking shot of like McAllisters and all the family they're staying with. The guy who plays
Uh-huh.
Averman is by the Christmas tree opening a present. There you go. So that's how he kicked
How
off.
we know.
Yeah, it's fucking mad.
Yeah, like movie trivia knowledge and stuff like that. I think that's why I was put on this planet. If anybody ever wants, just an extra person for a like pub quiz type thing,
Yeah.
any form of that kind of scenario, yeah, that's why I was put in this planet. Like,
What would be the most interesting bit of trivia you could dish out off the top of your head that people
um,
people would enjoy?
uh, it's all sports related now, just because there's a section on injury time that we do. But it's for example, so there's only one county ever to win the Liam McCarthy and the Sam Maguire in the same year, and I can't remember the year, but it was Cork. So
Right. So there you go.
that's
The
a little bit
WoodsTalk
of
viewers.
GA knowledge, and then just other things like who was the last Premiership team that Rory Carroll played for.
Derby.
That was like Derby County in
Yeah, I thought it
2007.
was Derby.
Just
Yeah.
like really random shit like that.
Yeah. Okay, so we're on the different bit now. Films you hate that everybody likes.
Right. Uh, I don't. I don't necessarily think I hate any films. Not even really dislike. I don't really. I used to find myself going like, oh, it's popular, so I don't like it. But that was more in terms of like music and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But in terms of movies, none really jump out at me. That I hate. I remember as a kid, I didn't like Christian Bale because I watched American Psycho and he kicks the homeless guy's dog to death, and I was like, I'm not standing for that. Like, you know, I was an early form of cancel culture, really, where I was like, I'm going to boycott every single DVD and Extravision with Christian Bale in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've forgiven him after The Dark Knight and stuff like that. So
yeah,
if you want to get away with killing stray animals, just be in a Christopher Nolan movie.
Yeah, because I suppose like that's the thing about like I was reading about the Mandalorian, and obviously Gina Carano she's been cancelled and sacked from that show. I don't know what the crack is as it stands, because I know she has spoke on a few podcasts about it, but I know at one point, Bill Burr, there's a scene in the Mandalorian, spoilers, where he like drops Grogu or something like that, and people were like, "That's fucking disgraceful," like we hate him now, and I'm just going, it's only in the show, you fucking dickheads. Like, it's not real. Do you know what I mean? Funny enough, Grogu, it's just a prop. Do you know what I mean? Prop way of bit of fucking, you know what I mean?
I know. I
Stick up
can't wait until the BuzzFeed article about Zac Efron actually murdering people and
exactly, yeah,
in prison and stuff.
Yeah, and that's like one of Bambi's like relatives being interviewed on CNN. You know what I mean?
The Great White Shark from Jaws 3.
Yeah.
Innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah. It's weird. Like, I feel the same about sort of films and music where, like, it's difficult, because, as you say, sometimes when things are popular, it's hard to jump on the bandwagon. And it's just as hard when you do jump on the bandwagon, because you're like, yeah, I'm one of those people where you're like, you know what, I think it's class. And it's the same with film. Like, I know in terms of stuff that I don't like that everybody seems to love, I have no real positive vibes for Donnie Darko. That can fuck off. Not a fan.
I mean, like, I wouldn't, like, I know, like, growing up and stuff like that, there was a couple of people in boarding school that it was, like, verging on obsessional with Donnie Darko and stuff, and you're just like, do you need to speak to the counselor or something like that? Those kind of things. But I never really got, like, only this year is the first time I've watched a couple of cult classics, like A Nightmare Before Christmas.
What
and I watched it in like February.
What the
animated one?
The Burton one? Well, I don't think
I
don't think he doesn't direct that, but everybody thinks he does. I'm pretty sure.
Does he not direct it? Oh no, he produced it, didn't he?
Yeah, but everybody's just like, oh, he must have directed it, and I'm like, it does look like if he went in and hadn't seen it before, he'd be like, I think Tim Burton did this. You know what I mean? You're not going, this is very much a Francis Ford Coppola sort of film. But again, that'd be a film a lot of people really like. I don't know what you thought of it. I don't like it at all. Like Nightmare Before Christmas, I just don't.
Oh no, I liked it. I mean, like, it kind of felt like, even though I'd never seen it before, it felt nostalgic, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
It was that kind of weird feeling where I go like, okay, I get the reference. I know, Jack and Sally and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's mostly from listening to Blink-182 songs and not actually watching the movie. Like, and I kind of like it when things are kind of like in the zeitgeist where you almost know it without ever having to seen it. Because just before lockdown was the first time I ever watched Ghostbusters.
Oh, really?
Ever. And I watched it in the cinema, in Lisburn Cinema. One day, I think it was before a gig, I was doing like Pug Uglies or something like that. Went to go see it, and I was like, Oh no, I get all these like the dickless joke and stuff like that. I was like, oh yeah, no, I've definitely heard that before. And just thinking, going like, okay, yeah. So I pretty much got the gist of that without even seeing the movie, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I suppose there's just certain films that get so embedded in pop culture and are
Yeah.
referred to so many times in so various other mediums and films and stuff
Mm.
that yeah, you could probably go into it and go, there's a familiarity to this, even though I haven't seen it. You know what I mean? So
Exactly. I think things like Family Guy, especially, and The Simpsons are the reason for that. Just because you're just going like, okay, this is funny what they're doing, but it's like it's either a homage or they're just taking the piss out of what they and seen in the movies and stuff like that. And that's why I think I'm half as smart in terms of trivia as I am. It was
yeah,
simply just because I watched too much animated TV programs.
yeah. I think it's good that like to say certain films just stay with you, and that
Yeah.
Ghostbusters is always that for me. And even like about a year ago, I was rewatching Twins with Arnie and
Mm-hmm.
DeVito.
Oh yeah, Arnie and Danny DeVito.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it in ages, so I'm watching it, and then the music kicks in, and I was just going, I guarantee that's the guy who scored Ghostbusters. I can't remember his name, but I was right. It was that same sort of vibe, and I was like, yeah. So it was weird that like I was like, because usually the score is not the first thing you think about with Ghostbusters. It's usually
Exactly.
Bill
Yeah.
Murray
Yeah.
and the title track, and then obviously like Harold Ramis passing and some of the
Mm.
lines and stuff like that. But yeah, the guy who scored it, I was like, yeah, for sure. It was weird. I was chatting to Mickey the other night. You know, Mickey Bartlett's a massive Arnie fan, and he's never seen Twins.
I
Like, I
that
kind of
doesn't seem
I had to go
correct.
like, go on, please watch it. For your own sanity. Considering during lockdown, you thought I'd be bored enough to have churned it out
Yeah.
by now. But yeah, hadn't seen
Mickey is trying to turn himself into Arnie with the amount of workout videos he's doing, but
it.
he probably still hasn't even seen Junior.
Yeah, Junior fucking yeah, because we were talking about the whole Arnie Stallone rivalry about how Arnie tricked Stallone into doing Stop or My Mum Will Shoot, because basically Arnie knew it was a piece of shit film, even though I quite like it. But Arnie basically spread rumors amongst like his agents and his publicists that he was itching to get the role in Stop or My Mum Will Shoot, and then Stallone basically went, I'm going to beat that cunt to the role. And then Stallone was like, fuck you, I got it. And then Schwarzenegger was like, wait and see. No worries. And
Yeah.
he just sort of read
Oh
the script. Yeah,
no.
and he's like totally mugged him off. And that level of fucking slyness is not something you see anymore. I can't imagine any two actors these days, like fucking Tatum and Jonah Hill, duping each other over
Yeah.
roles. Do you know what I mean? It's so
Yeah, you
old
can't really
school.
see. Although some people I could see it with, like obviously people like Christian Bale, because on the set of was it Terminator Salvation, where he went fucking mental at
Yeah.
like I don't know, like a lighting director or something like that. And Tom Cruise recently when they were filming the new Mission Impossible movie,
Yeah.
and I think it was one of the extras didn't were like standing too close together or weren't wearing a mask or something like that.
Heard that.
So I could see maybe that they could do it, but yeah, I don't really see people like, as you were saying, Jonah Hill or Channing Tatum or anyone like that doing it.
Yeah.
But
It's fucking
we need
weird.
more of it. That's what I say.
Oh, for sure. I want to see some rivalries, because these days in Hollywood, particularly like there's a lot of people that you get confused, like Jessica Chastain and Christina Hendricks and Bryce Dallas Hurd. They're all pretty much the same. And then the wee guy who was in the Hunger Games, he looks like about 19 other actors. And then there's a guy who's in American Assassin with Michael Keaton, and he also did like the Maze Runner series. He looks like some other like I think his name's Logan Lerman, and
Mm-hmm.
then there's another.
Good alliteration there.
Yeah, and you're like, you can't tell these people apart, and you're like, I want them to sort of fight to the death over these things. Like, be fucking cool, man. I have to say.
It's not like racism, but it's like a form of ageism going like you all just look the same.
Yeah, you're pretty much. I feel like it sounds like an owl fella discussing like music at like his grandson's 21st. He's like, that's too loud, and it's all the fucking same. Do you know what I mean? Oh,
Uh,
I have to say, like,
I,
I was thinking, because obviously you probably listen to a good deal of alternative music too, just came into my
I do.
head there. Do you remember obviously like going to like a lot of 18ths and 21sts of your friends who listen to alternative music? So all their families in like the back room of a bar, and there's a cake and streamers and stuff. and you have the usual party music, and then they'd be like, fire on a bit of fucking Limp Bizkit there. So you have the grannies that were up dancing, and they just kind of stay there, going like, yeah, do you know what I mean? Living it up in the fast lane. Do you know what I mean? It's fucking. I loved it. I loved watching it, and I was just seeing like out dancing to like a bit of Proud Mary, bit of fucking Steelers Wheel, and then it just kicks into like, you know, Freaking a Leash, and you're like, yes lad, keep her lit there, Vera, keep her fucking yoked.
Yeah, I can't remember which comedian does it. I think it's Peter E. Davidson talking about DJing at a wedding, and like just looking at the alternative uncle and going like, don't worry, Where's Your Mind by the Pixies is just coming right up. But yeah, it's a fucking great bit. Like,
yeah, that's always the track. Always the track is Where's My Mind.
It's I think my obsession with Pixies has just gotten bigger and bigger over lockdown.
Oh really?
Yeah, because they're obviously a band I was aware of when I was a kid and stuff like that. But like now, learning like musical instruments, like it's all I want to play and stuff like that. And I got tickets to go see them. So they're supposed to be in Galway in August, but it's been postponed to next year. But yeah, I've got tickets to see them, so strike that one off the bucket list.
Sweet.
And hopefully no one dies before I go see them.
Fuck yeah. Whereabouts in Galway are they playing?
They're playing, it's like this festival thing they've gotten, it has two names, like JFK Square and Eyre Square, but it's like right in the centre of town, just beside the bus station, where they have the Galway Comedy Festival.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're opening up. It's like a big open air thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've postponed it till next year.
Yeah.
I was really disappointed when Rammstein pulled their gig completely from Belfast.
Oh, so it's not rescheduled. It's been just completely pulled.
Pulled, yeah, and everybody's getting refunds and stuff like that.
Fuck.
But that's a bit annoying, I guess, because I've been, I know like Dave's a massive fan of Rammstein as well.
Yeah.
Like I've been listening to their music maybe like almost 10 years now, and like I was absolutely dying to see them. And look, if I could, you know, take my finger out of my hole and actually, you know, go book to go see them in somewhere else in Europe or in London or something like that. But I'm just going like, no, man, I'd rather just go to the Boucher Road and, you know, walk 17 miles to get home at the end. Like, that's all I want to do.
Who else is on your bucket list of people to see? Because I suppose during lockdown, you sort of have a bit of perspective to go, that this has to happen when all these restrictions lift.
Definitely. Yeah, Pixies are up there. Black Keys, I've seen them before, but I'm dying to see them again.
Yeah.
Arctic Monkeys, just, you know, the kind of, I'm actually scared about what I would do for a ticket to see an Oasis reunion. Yeah,
I'd be the same. I'd be very keen to just to be able to say you were there as well. Yeah, that's obviously a big part of it.
Exactly, yeah. But it's one of those weird things, like, isn't it?
Yeah. I got like my bucket list has always been, and this is a bad example considering, like, you know, there's a lot of great bands out there, but I think my number one, honestly, would be The Offspring. I know that's mad.
Oh, yeah.
But I
love The Offspring.
Yeah, but how good would it be just for them, even at like a festival where it was like we're just doing greatest hits for like an hour and 40 minutes.
That would be perfect.
And then I've got massively, in terms of films as well, into Rob Zombie over the lockdown.
Oh yeah, man, I love Rob Zombie.
Massively. I don't know, I listened to him on Joe Rogan Experience and I was like, this guy is alarmingly normal for for his content. And I just liked his vibe, and then I was like, I knew like some of the solo stuff, like Never Gonna Stop and all, but it was you know, I was reading about him, and then it was like, if you want to sort of learn about his sensibilities as a musician, you have to go back to White Zombie and the Astro Creep 2000 record, and that like went automatically into my top 10 albums of all time. Like I bought it in vinyl straight away, and I'm still obsessed with it.
Thunder Kiss 65, all the classics.
That's Thunder Kiss is Le Sexorcisto Devil Music Volume 1, which is the album before it. Astro Creep has More Human Than Human would be the big track off that, and like Supercharger Heaven, well. Electric Head Part 1 and stuff is in that. And then obviously his solo stuff is
obviously I really like his solo stuff. I would say a bit more than White Zombie itself, though.
Yeah,
just because it's being so destructive in that band. I think like everybody fucking hated each other.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, they only have like the sort of two staple albums, and then the rest is like demos and remixes and stuff. It's only when like I bought like Hellbilly Deluxe on vinyl. The solo Zombie album has got like Dragula and Living Dead Girl and stuff on it. And you're like, tremendous. And even like his films, I think
great. Like,
if I had to say about anything during this lockdown, anything I've taken on apart from like doing more podcasts, is listening to Rob Zombie and watching his films. And they're not all films wise, it's a very particular audience, and I'm sure if you were part of it 100%, you'd be obsessed with it. I think he has his moments, but
that was the first DVD I bought when I turned 18, was House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah,
and it was one of my favorite films growing up, just because like seeing clips of it in like Film 4 or something like that. But like even the animated movie, The Haunted World of El Super Beasto, is still like, it holds up as like a decent movie. I watched Three from Hell recently, and I was a bit disappointed with it. But Devil's Rejects is just a fantastic movie as well.
Devil's Rejects is really fucking good. Even like House of a Thousand Corpses, that was one that like me and Lisa watched it. She fucking despised it like within the first 10 minutes, which is understandable. There's something about it, like it makes me wildly uncomfortable, but I kept going back to it. Does that make sense?
It's one of those movies that you watch it and you kind of just want to go out and make your own film. It has that kind of like DIY kind of spirit behind it. Well, to me at least. Just looking at it, going like, oh, this would be fucking class, and fucking Dwight from The Office is in it. Like,
that's what I was about to say. Speaking of trivia, it's got like him and then Chris Hardwick.
That's a good one. Like.
Yeah, and it's fucking. Doesn't Rainn Wilson, who plays Dwight, he ends up as like the fish man type.
The fish guy, yeah.
It's fucking like the imagery is ridiculous. There's no doubt that.
It's kind of weird because the first, I'd say about 3/4 of the movie is just you're kind of in the script director, but when they get like by 3/4 of the way through, it just like branches out into this kind of weird almost like Oliver Stone from Natural Born Killers kind of thing.
Yeah, it does.
Where it's like nothing is like traditional or the normal way you're thinking about it, all these weird shots, multicolored, all that kind of shit, which I really like. So that's why I fucking like Zombie. Like, I mean, like Devil's Rejects is completely different. That is like proper, almost like studio movie. It feels more than an art piece, as House of a Thousand Corpses was with New Line. But it's one of those things where you're looking at going like, okay, the first one is great because it's kind of indie. The second one's proper studio, and then Three from Hell, you're just like, okay, this is like, I don't know. It's when like I don't know, Xavi or Iniesta is signed for like like some Middle Eastern team, and it's like not their best work. It's definitely not their best.
Oh, for sure. I think like in terms of like Free from Hell, I think it was just like a necessary way to end that whole. It's called the Firefly trilogy and stuff. But I have to say, like the Devil's Rejects was really good, and I didn't find them overly scary, but they were very entertaining. And I do scare easily because I remember I went to see The Woman in Black in the cinema with Daniel Radcliffe. It's fucking great, by the way. It's fucking really well made, really well lit and stuff. But the amount of times that like I'd be sitting there with the popcorn and Lisa's there, and I'd be like, oh, they got there, and just fucking cover her in popcorn, and she's like, are you fucking serious? And she's just like, because she's sitting there fucking no bother, because she's really into horror, but she just sits there going, that's good, but she's not jumpy, she doesn't really get scared. She's like,
she's just watching it like this, going like a proper film critic.
Yeah, just going, this is what's going to happen to you when I go. Do you know what I mean?
That's class. Yeah, I kind of find myself with like horror movies, like I can sit and watch things like House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects and stuff like that till the cows come home. But you see, if you give me like I don't know, The Nun or The Curse of La Llorona or something like that, anything supernatural, I'm like, okay, now we're in uncharted territories here. I'm okay with like serial killers and murderers and stuff like that, but you see, when it comes to ghosts and shit like that, I'm like, okay, have to be careful here.
I remember
that kind of thing.
When we spoke at the start about about word of mouth and how it can kind of affect your sort of vibe before you see a film. I know that certainly a film that kind of freaked me out a bit before I'd seen it, even though really when I watched it, it wasn't that bad. But I remember hearing all the vibe about Paranormal Activity. I remember loads of people going, this will freak you the fuck out, because I can understand it. It's so visceral and ridiculously relatable. It's like the fucking Peter Kay of horror films when you think about it. Like, it's like alarming. It's just basically in a house, and from a filmmaking point of view, it's just a matter of like just doing like that, and then there's just like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
be great.
that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I think it's kind of weird because our generation is the only generation to have two like found footage movies, The Blair Witch Project and Paranormal Activity,
yeah,
and also two global recessions as well. I
yeah.
think that's the only time in history it's ever happened. Like, so
I know what I just can't help but think now. You know, has there been a porn parody of Paranormal Activity where it's just like funny?
like, hey, if there's not, I can't think of a better lockdown project than
Yeah,
that.
just because that's all those films were, was just. But even just like, what if the person's like lying on the bed? It's got like a wide shot of the bed, and it's like the infrared at night, and they're just lying on the bed, and then suddenly the cacks come off, like they do with the blankets. The cacks are.
Oh, well.
And that'd be great. And then just like, you can just tell like the dog, just sort of the dog's leg starts to lift.
Oh dear.
I think
That's what I've always said. We need more infrared in porn.
oh, for sure, we need a
I've said it since day dot.
paranormal activity, and it's just again the girl having a wee nap on her couch, and then suddenly she's the victim of the wheelbarrow, but there's nobody else there, and she's just climbing about on her hands. Fucking great, mate. I have to say, it'd be fucking class.
Can't wait.
Before,
Although I will need to see the consent forms though, because like obviously with ghosts and stuff like that.
you're always so into the admin side of things, mate. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? So let's just see them off. You know what I mean?
I need to see a release form. I need to see, what's the fucking word for it? Danger recce and stuff like that, just to make sure that risk assessments and stuff like
sure.
that.
If you had to make a porn parody, we'll finish on this. If you had to make a porn parody of a horror film, what would it be, do you think?
Okay, so it's set just outside this place called Amityville. No, not Amityville, Amity Island. And it's where I get this great white shark, okay?
Yeah.
Now, follow me here. I make the world's biggest aquatic brothel, and like everybody comes to have sex with the shark because it's the only great white shark in captivity. And then the mother of the great white shark that I've kept in captivity finds out. And you see, I think that the great white shark that I have in captivity is the biggest one there is. There's not going to be a bigger one, but you realize that that's the baby, and then the actual mother comes in and eats the rest of the clientele. Credits, special thanks. Can't wait to see you in the Oscars.
Yeah,
you know,
sponsored by Moy Park. I have to say, I'm
sponsored by Speedo Faruka socks.
I have to say, I'm struggling now in terms of what to name this episode, because what's been in my head is vape juice, but I think, could we call this aquatic brothel? Because for some reason in my fucked up head, when you said that, for some reason I just imagined the guy, you know, like just wanking directly into the bit that he attached to the super soaker, and then be like do you know what I mean? River cock. There you go.
Yeah, there we go.
Deep river cock.
I'm suddenly really hungry all of a sudden there. As soon as you mentioned super soaker.
I really want some cottage cheese and chopped mushrooms now. Right, before I let you go, dude, talk to me about the wee pods and where people can find you on the social medias and all that stuff.
Yeah, so Injury Time Podcast, it's at ITPod32 on Instagram, and then obviously on stuff like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Stitcher, all that kind of stuff. Grindr. I feel like I need to add that now because I miss doing stand up, and you know, it's just those wee add-ons. That's like, it's like, I don't know, a little bit of salt on top.
Yeah.
But I also it's not out at the minute, but Pop Kernels will be coming out all on the same platforms as Injury Time.
Awesome.
And you know, Instagram, and then Spotify, Stitcher, and Apple Podcasts, and that's all I got.
All the stuff. It's so annoying trying to plug podcasts, because I think people are up to speed now, because usually people use podcast players that just kind of like give you a link to wherever is available. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, people check out the Injury Time Podcast. Follow you on Insta. What's your Insta handle?
So for Injury Time, it's IT Pod 32. For me, it's Jordan Robinson Comedy.
Yeah, so
Dead easy.
You can see all the live dates coming up, and if you want to be an extra in Jordan's Great White Shark horror movie, which the Aquatic Brothel, with Steve Zissou. There you go.
Yeah. Taking it to Cannes.
By the way, get Aaron Butler to do the artwork and do it like Hostel, but it's just like brothel. Do you know what I mean? It'd be fucking great. Yeah. Thanks again, dude, for coming on. Pleasure to speak to you, as always.
No problem at all, man.
And
have a great time.
You too, dude. Thank you very much for coming on. And this is the fake end of the show. So thanks again, boy. Look after yourself.
Will do, bud.